Welcome to Hope is Here. Have you ever seen a walking and talking miracle? Well, you may not see one today, but you're actually going to hear from one. Lynn Buckles is our guest, and Lynn has been on staff at Crossroads Christian for about 20 years and been a friend of mine for over a decade, but he had a incredible health challenge back on November 9th, and I'm thankful today that he's here because at one point the surgeon told him he only had a 10% chance of surviving the surgery. So first thing I want to do is just want to thank Lynn and Janene, his wife, for being here. Guys, thanks for being on Hope is Here.
Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting us, Greg.
Well, you know, November 9th, I assume from us talking a few weeks ago, just kind of started out like a normal day, but so talk a little bit about what happened later that day.
Yeah, so this was November 9th, 2015. And so just I was at church. Actually, I had taken to work some, Janene had made some homemade beef stew, which was one of my favorites. And we were getting ready to do a video shoot for some promotion around some financial things that we were doing, a campaign. And so I was eating very quickly. And as soon as I got through, I started walking back to my office, had incredible chest pain. It felt like just an intense, heartburn. I've had those on occasion before, but nothing like this. It was so bad I had to lay down in the floor, and I had all the symptoms of a heart attack. I had the jaw pain, I had the chest, I had the arm, and I just felt horrible. So they called the EMTs and rushed me to St. Joe East, and they just spent the afternoon trying to figure out if I'd had a heart attack. At the end of the day, my heart was fine, and I seemed okay, although I felt pretty weak. They sent me home that night, and so the next day I'm not feeling well, feeling almost like not flu-like, but it felt just like I just was tired, and I don't remember everything, but had a friend from church, Jenny Clayton, who came over. She's a massage therapist. I was having some muscle aches. And she came over and just kind of talked with me and prayed over me and just kind of did a little bit of massaging. But I could tell by her body language she was concerned. And she actually called Janene. So won't you talk about that?
Yes. So the second day, Jenny calls me and says, I really think you need to go call the doctor again, go back to the doctor. And I had already decided by the next day, if he wasn't any better, I was going to take him back to the doctor. So that's what we did. And Jenny just confirmed that with me, that we should take him back. And as soon as we got to the doctor, almost immediately, they started his vitals and said, well, we're going to call the EMTs again, and you need to go back to the hospital. They didn't know what it was. They said, but you need to be in the hospital. So they sent us back to St. Joe, Maine this time. And that's where we learned that what had happened was is that he had actually ruptured his esophagus, which is a very rare thing, especially in someone who does not have some kind of history of cancer, or they said it happens a lot with people with the eating disorders that throw up a lot, that kind of thing.
Right, bulimia and things like that.
Right. So they were kind of puzzled as to why it would happen, but at that point it didn't matter why it happened, it happened.
Right. Up to this point, your health was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was,
good.
Nothing.
Yeah,
it was fine. I felt pretty good, and ironically, I was trying. We had just started kind of a staff kind of contest to lose weight. I wanted to lose a few pounds, and of course, I ended up losing a lot of weight, and so over the 3 months. But I was feeling fine, and so I just remember when we got to the ER at St. Joe's. I was really weak. I knew that, and unbeknownst to me, I was really probably close to death.
Yeah, they said, I think that within 12 hours he would have died.
Within 12 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
From that time, within 12 hours he would have died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so they take him in for the surgery,
mm-hmm.
and he takes that. How long a surgery was that?
They told me it would be 4 to 5 hours. It really only took about 2.5. For him to come back out, the surgeon to come back out and talk to me again. So he came out, and when he told me, he actually phrased it as there's a 90% mortality rate with this kind of condition. And he didn't mean like that night, but he says because of the fact that, because he'd been eating all this time, and also all that food was going into his chest cavity. And matter of fact, he told me, he said, I found a pea by his heart. So,
wow.
so
From the beef stew.
the beef stew.
I don't like peas anymore.
So we had to clean out all of that stuff, and that's just,
Yeah.
he was, a lot of infection had set in at that point in his chest cavity. So then it was just a waiting game at that point. We just waited until to see if he patched up his esophagus, and then you just wait to see if it was going to heal.
So obviously, Lynn, you don't really know what's going on. I'm assuming this or.
Yeah. All I remember going into surgery, I do remember Dr. Halpin saying to me, "You've got about a 10% chance of survival." He just shot straight with me, and I just remember laying there, partly because I was just so weak. I didn't have any reaction. It didn't freak me out. Okay, here we are. I remember a little bit as they're rolling me into the hospital area, the operating room, close to that. I remember Janene still being with me. But after that, I think it was a few days before I actually regained consciousness.
Well, you were in the ICU on a ventilator for 3 or 4 days. I can't remember exactly. So because they had to keep him sedated, because the medication they were giving to try to keep his blood pressure up, just to keep him alive at that point and to fight the infection. So, and his respiratory system was so weak at that point too. So it took about 3 or 4 days for them to be able to wean him off of the respirator. And then at that point, after they took him off the respirator, and days went by, and they said, "Okay, it looks like things are going well. We just got to wait for this thing to heal, which could take up to 6 weeks," is what they told me. And I'm thinking, 6 weeks in the hospital, that's incredible. That includes Thanksgiving,
Almost to Christmas.
Right, almost to Christmas. Little did I know it would be a lot longer than that. So they eventually put him in a unit of the hospital. It was a long-term care unit because he could only stay on the regular floors for so long. And so they put him in the long-term care unit, and we just waited to see if it would heal. And they did a few tests on him, and it looked like it was healing. But December the 21st was the day things changed. I could tell from a few days beforehand, he started not feeling well again. And he was sleeping a lot. He couldn't stand up. They were doing physical therapy with him, and he'd started to where he just couldn't do it anymore. And I was like, this is not good. And I was having trouble getting the staff in that particular unit to pay attention to what I was saying to them. So eventually I insisted that I see his regular surgeon, his infectious disease doctor, any doctor that had any kind of contact with him at all. I was insisting that they come and see me. So they did. They came. And that's when they were convinced that, something's not right. And it turned out what he had developed an abscess in the area where the surgery was, inside his chest cavity. And so, again, we went to, he's dying. He's, and they never said that to me, but I could tell nobody expected him to come out of this because he had become septic infection, systemic infection over his whole body. So they went back in and they did a surgery where they actually just clamped off his esophagus above and below the tear, and hoping that he would survive. So here we go back into the ICU again. And this time we were in there for, he was on the ventilator 10 to 12 days. I can't remember exactly. And just praying that he would survive. Just, praying that he would live through this whole thing. Once he got to where they could move him from the ventilator, he slowly started improving, very slowly. And then we had to face another surgery because that's when they had to do the esophagectomy, because at that point that was the only option. And
there was actually a surgery before that. They had to put in a feeding tube.
Right.
And so I went 4 months without any drinking anything or eating anything.
Yeah.
And so consequently, I lost 45 pounds. I mean, I was on a feeding tube, but I wasn't gaining any weight really. And
no, it was just survival.
I remember, I do have memories from the November event, days when I was alert, because I remember walking something. I remember realizing I had 4 chest tubes in my back going to my lungs as drainage. And And I couldn't, basically, I was in a prison. I felt like I couldn't move. But I remember, trying to walk. I remember people coming to see me. I remember the first time I got up to go to the bathroom one night, in the middle of the night, and I walked by the mirror, and I looked like I just had been in a concentration camp. I couldn't see my eyes. And that was the most shocking thing of everything. That night was just really like, oh my goodness, I look like death warmed over. I mean, it was really startling to me. So, so it was quite a journey. But I do have memories of several things, not around the Christmas time, but I have memories of being wheeled around, going outside a couple of times, just to see the sunshine. And, I was just in this room all the time. I thought, gosh, this is horrible. And I do remember getting stronger after New Year's. I didn't know I was having this forced surgery. And the doctor said, you need to get stronger. You need to get stronger. We're going to do another operation. But nobody told me, what are you talking about? And then finally, because I was still kind of mentally, I wasn't sharp. And finally one day they came in with this diagram. We're going to remove your esophagus. Most of your esophagus, then we're going to pull your stomach up and reattach it. And I'm thinking, I didn't even know you could do that. And but they could not give me a date. We just got to get stronger. So I started doing a little bit of weights. I walked all over the hospital. I remember the first time Janene and I tried to walk upstairs. She was with me. I almost fell because I couldn't even take a step up a stairwell. But I was trying, so it was like a 30-day workout getting ready for surgery. I mean, it really was that. And I remember the day the doctor came in and said, I've got a surgery date, February 1. And as soon as I heard February 1 was my surgery date, I became a lot more hopeful and positive. Because, now I can think about a deadline. And I told Janene, I'll be out of here before Valentine's. And she thought I was crazy. But me and one of the nurses said he's going to be out of here. And I left the hospital on February 11th. I went out on November 11th, left on February 11th. Wow. So 90 days.
90 days. Well, I was following it on social media and praying like thousands of others here in central Kentucky and across the country with Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Janene had to be tough to see your husband. I mean, like I said, he felt like he looked like he was, been in a concentration camp. Talk what that was like, seeing Lynn like that in that condition.
Well, of course, it's very hard, especially when, he basically died almost 3 times, because there were times when he was in the ICU. I remember one particular time where his blood pressure started dropping, his respiration started dropping, and then it was like almost like a TVER. There were things flying and people yelling and that kind of thing. So, it was terrifying. That was probably the biggest emotion that I had. I was scared to death. So it was hard. It was really hard. But I had so much support from family, friends, people from church were amazing. People all over the world were praying for him. And I would get messages from people. And I had a neighbor who was doing all the Facebook updates. She would call me every day or come by every day and do all of that to keep everybody informed. So it was really a huge blessing for me, because I was the conscious one, and to support me through all of that. We weren't alone. I never felt alone at all.
Wow, what a powerful story we've heard. Lynn and Janene Buckles, stay with us. Tomorrow they're going to tell us more about this amazing recovery, how Lynn survived with only a 10% chance of surviving the surgery and went through 4 others. So tune in tomorrow on Hope is Here. Are you looking for an upscaled luxury used car? Look no further than Paradise Motorsports. Paradise Motorsports, located in Lexington on East New Circle Road, has quality vehicles at amazing prices. The owner, Rod, and his team will take great care of you. If you want to check out their selection of quality upscale luxury used cars, check them out online at paradiseinventory.com. That's paradiseinventory.com.